You really did it, her friend shouted as the supermodel slammed the ring onto the table. Wedding photos hadn't even cooled in the papers, and the news had already exploded across the world of show business. She hadn't married a billionaire, but on a dare, a fat poor man nobody had ever heard of. People laughed, called it a bad joke, but what puzzled them even more, he had flatly refused any money or gifts, and she, for the first time in her life, seemed to obey someone without hesitation. Behind the closed doors of their small house, something began that made even her closest friends whisper, "This isn't just a bet, he's hiding something." The very next day she appeared at a social event without jewelry, in a plain dress from a street market. The press exploded. Did he break her? She sat silently by his side, and he only smiled, as if he knew something no one else did. Whispers spread, rumors multiplied, and everyone wanted to know what power he held over her. That night, as they sat in his old kitchen, laughing over a burnt meal, his phone buzzed. A single message flashed across the screen, "Your plan is working. Keep going." She didn't see it. He quietly slid the phone back into his pocket, face unreadable, and she carried on talking as if nothing had happened. The next morning cameras flashed outside their apartment. "Why are you doing this? What's the catch?" reporters shouted. She raised her head, ready to speak, but he cut in first, "No questions. Not today." His tone wasn't angry, but final. She lowered her eyes, lips pressed tight, and the crowd roared louder, sensing weakness. Inside, silence weighed heavier than the noise outside. She opened a box he had left on the counter. Inside were photographs, old, faded, where he stood in the background of fashion shows, near faces she knew all too well. Her hand trembled. "You were there, back then," she whispered. He didn't answer, just poured himself coffee, letting the silence sting. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. He glanced at her, then at the door, jaw tightening. She moved to open it, but he stopped her with a firm hand. "Not yet," he said quietly. Outside, voices argued, calling her name, demanding answers. She looked at him, fear and confusion mixing with something else she couldn't name. And in that moment she realized, the dare was only the beginning, and whatever game he was playing, she was already trapped inside it. The knocking grew louder, fists slamming against the door, voices rising in anger. She looked at him, pale, whispering, "It's the press, they won't stop." He shook his head. "Not them." His certainty chilled her. Whoever it was, he already knew. The pounding stopped as suddenly as it began. A single envelope slid under the door. He bent down, picked it up, and without opening it, tore it in half and dropped it into the trash. "Wait," she reached for the pieces, but he grabbed her wrist. "Some things don't need answers now." She pulled away, eyes flashing. "You can't keep me in the dark. I left everything for this madness, my career, my name. You owe me something." Her voice cracked but didn't break. For the first time, anger burned through her fear. He looked at her for a long moment, then walked to the window. Cameras still blinked below, neighbors staring. He opened the curtain wide, took her hand, and pulled her beside him. "You want to know the truth? Then stand here with me. Don't hide." It wasn't tenderness, it was a command, a dare. Reporters shouted questions from the street. "Why him? Are you being forced? Is this a stunt?" She froze, her heart hammering, but then lifted her chin and spoke loud enough to be heard, "This is my choice." The crowd erupted, half in disbelief, half in fury. He released her hand slowly, watching the storm outside. "Now you've chosen. There's no going back." His words weren't threatening, but final, like a verdict. She felt the weight of them sink into her chest. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. A message from her agent lit the screen. "If you don't leave him tonight, the contract is gone. Forever." She stared at the words, lips trembling. Fame, fortune, her entire world, on the line. She turned toward him, desperate. "What do I do?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed his phone on the table, face up. A new notification appeared, another message: Phase 2 starts now. She saw it this time. Her breath caught. "What phase?" she demanded. He looked at her, steady, unflinching. "You said you wanted the truth. Then decide, stay and face it, or walk away, right now." Her hands shook as she read the message from her agent again. The choice pressed down on her: fame or this strange marriage that made less sense by the hour. She slammed the phone on the table. "You think I'll just give everything up without answers? No. If you won't tell me, I'll find out myself." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Then start looking. But don't be surprised if what you find hurts more than what you've lost." His words stung like a warning and a dare in one. That evening, while he stepped out to meet someone he wouldn't name, she searched the apartment. Old boxes, drawers, closets, nothing but scraps of a life too ordinary, too small. Until she found a leather-bound notebook tucked behind the radiator. Its pages were filled with dates, names, addresses, some of them circled, others crossed out. Her stomach tightened when she spotted one name she knew well: her former mentor, a man who had discovered her at 17. Before she could turn the page, the door creaked. A woman's voice carried down the hall: "You shouldn't be here." Startled, she spun around. An older neighbor, gray-haired but sharp-eyed, stood in the doorway. "You think you're the first he brought here?" The words hit like ice water. "What do you mean?" she whispered, clutching the notebook to her chest. The woman stepped closer, lowering her voice. "He's not what he pretends to be. Watch carefully, or you'll end up like the others." She paused, glanced toward the door as if afraid, then vanished as quickly as she came. Her husband returned minutes later, face unreadable. She hid the notebook, heart pounding. "Who was that?" he asked casually, but his eyes searched hers too closely. "No one," she lied, forcing a smile. Later, as night fell, she slipped out onto the balcony to breathe, the city noise buzzing below. Her phone buzzed again, another message, but not from her agent. This one was from an unknown number: "We need to talk. Midnight. Alone. Don't trust him." She froze, torn between fear and a rush of desperate hope. Midnight was only hours away. She turned back inside, where he was watching her silently, as if he already knew. His clock ticked past 11. She sat by the window, notebook hidden beneath her jacket, eyes darting between the door and her phone. Midnight was closing in. Her husband had fallen asleep on the couch, or at least pretended to, his chest rising too evenly, too controlled. She slipped out quietly, heart hammering, and hurried down the stairs. The street was cold and sharp with noise, but no one approached her. She walked 2 blocks before spotting a shadow leaning against a lamppost. "You came," the voice said. It was a man, mid-40s, face partly hidden beneath a cap. "I don't have long." "He's not who you think." Her breath caught. "Who is he?" The man handed her a folded page, edges yellowed with age. She unfolded it and froze. It was a magazine clipping from years ago, a backstage photo of her first runway show. And there, barely noticeable in the corner, was him. Not as a stranger, but standing beside her mentor, smiling. Before she could ask, a car engine roared nearby. Headlights swept across them, blinding. The man shoved her back. "Not here. He's watching." He darted away into the alley, leaving her with the clipping trembling in her hands. She returned home breathless, adrenaline surging. He was awake now, waiting at the kitchen table, a mug of coffee in his hand. "Out late?" His tone was calm, but his eyes pinned her down. She wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but instead she placed the clipping on the table between them. He studied it, lips curling in a faint smile. "You're learning faster than I expected." The words made her skin crawl. "So it was you, back then?" But instead of answering, he leaned forward. "Tell me, are you ready to lose everything you still cling to? Because only then will you understand why this marriage matters." Her phone buzzed again, another message from her agent: "Final chance. Press conference tomorrow. Choose us or him." Tears stung her eyes. She had followed every rule, every contract, every promise, and yet here she was, caught between a past she never knew and a future collapsing by the minute. She whispered, almost to herself, "What did I get myself into?" He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "Not what, love? Who?" And in that moment, the front door burst open. The front door slammed against the wall, and she flinched. A man in a dark suit stepped inside without invitation, flashing a badge she couldn't fully see. "We need to talk," he said sharply, eyes fixed on her husband. "Now." Her husband didn't move. He sipped his coffee slowly, then finally replied, "Not here. Not in front of her." The man's jaw tightened. "Then tomorrow. 10 a.m., don't be late." Without waiting for an answer, he turned and left as abruptly as he came, the echo of the door lingering like a threat. She stared at her husband, voice breaking. "Who was that? What have you dragged me into?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood, walked past her, and muttered, "You wanted the truth. You'll have to earn it." Her knees trembled. She wanted to scream, to run, but her phone buzzed again. Another message from her agent: "If you don't stand at the press conference tomorrow, we're finished. No one will hire you again." Her career, everything she'd built since she was a teenager, was slipping through her fingers. That night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing beside her. Memories of photo shoots, flashing cameras, the girl she once was, it all collided with the suffocating reality of his small apartment, his silence, his secrets. For the first time, tears rolled down her cheeks, not from fear, but from a crushing sense of loss. By morning, exhaustion weighed her down, but she made a choice. She dressed carefully, makeup precise, and looked him in the eye. "I'm going to that press conference." He didn't stop her. He only nodded once, almost amused. "Then be ready for what comes after." At the press hall, lights blinded her, questions fired like bullets. "Is it over? Are you leaving him? Was this all for publicity?" Her lips trembled, but she forced herself to speak, "I." Suddenly, from the back of the room, a voice cut through the chaos. Male, firm, undeniable, "Ask her about the notebook." Her stomach dropped. The notebook she thought was hidden. Dozens of cameras turned toward her. The air froze. The room spun with questions. Microphones pressed toward her face, flashes seared her eyes. The notebook. The word echoed in her chest like a hammer. She tried to steady her breath. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, forcing calm. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. From the front row, her agent buried her head in her hands. The reporters smelled blood. "Show us the notebook. What's inside it? Is this why you married him?" Chaos roared louder. Then, suddenly, he appeared at the side of the stage. Her husband. He walked slowly, deliberately, and the crowd fell silent. Without looking at her, he spoke into the microphones: "There is no notebook. There never was. Stop chasing ghosts." His tone was steady, but his eyes locked onto hers, burning with an unspoken warning. She wanted to shout that he was lying, to expose him, but her throat tightened. All she could manage was a whisper: "Why are you doing this to me?" He didn't answer. He only took her by the arm, guiding her off stage, through a back corridor. The press shouted behind them, but the heavy doors muffled the noise. Alone in the dim hallway, she pulled away. They know. I can't keep covering for you. He leaned close, voice low. Then don't. But remember, what's in that notebook could destroy more than just me. His words froze her. She thought of the circled names, the crossed-out faces, her mentor's name staring back at her from the page. Her legs trembled, exhaustion pressing down. Nights without sleep, the weight of lies, the endless noise, she felt herself breaking. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. For the first time, his face softened. Not pity, not love, something closer to fatigue. Neither can I, he said quietly. And then the hallway door opened. The neighbor, the same gray-haired woman who had warned her before, stood there, eyes fierce. She held something in her hand. The missing half of the torn envelope. She pressed it into the heroine's palm and whispered, "You deserve to know the truth. But once you read this, nothing will ever be the same." Her hands trembled as she unfolded the torn envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, blurred with age but legible, a list of names, all familiar from her world, models, agents, designers. Next to some names was a single word written in bold ink, ruined. Her own mentor's name was there, circled in red. And beneath it, faint but unmistakable, was her own. Her breath caught. "What is this?" she demanded, holding the paper out to him. But her husband only stared at it, then at her, expression unreadable. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said. His calmness was worse than anger. Her chest tightened. "So it's true? You planned this. You dragged me into your war." He didn't deny it. Instead, he turned away, leaving her clutching the page like a weapon she didn't know how to use. That night, she confronted her agent, hoping for help, but the betrayal cut deep. "You knew," she accused. The agent's silence was confirmation enough. Contracts had already been cancelled, deals dissolved, her name was poison. "I did what I had to," the agent muttered coldly. "You chose him. Don't expect us to save you now." It felt like the floor had collapsed beneath her. Everything she built, her career, her image, was slipping away, piece by piece, and no one was reaching to catch her. But as she staggered back into the street, clutching her coat tight, she noticed something tucked in her pocket. The neighbor's handwriting, scrawled on the back of the envelope, "Look for page 47 in the notebook. That's where it begins." Her pulse quickened. Hope flickered, a clue, a path forward. She still had a chance, if she was brave enough to follow it. She hurried home, heart racing, notebook in hand. But just as she flipped to page 47, the apartment door burst open again. This time it wasn't a stranger or her husband. It was two men in suits, their presence sharp, official, inescapable. "Ma'am," one of them said, voice flat but heavy. "You need to come with us. Now." The men in suits led her into a black car, windows tinted, silence thick. She clutched the notebook against her chest like armor. After a tense drive, they stopped at an anonymous office building. Inside, one of them ordered. They brought her to a stark room where a single folder lay on the table. "Sit." She obeyed, heart pounding. The man across from her slid the folder forward. "You've seen his notebook, haven't you?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. He opened the folder, photographs spilled out, some she recognized, industry parties, private dinners, contracts being signed. In every one, her husband was in the background, never center, always near the powerful. The man tapped the photos. "He's been there for decades, moving pieces you didn't even know existed." Her chest tightened. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you still have a choice," the man said. "Walk away from him now, or you'll end up on that list with the others." He leaned closer. "You've already seen your name once. Do you really want to see it again? Her throat burned. She thought of page 47, the circled names, her mentor, the whispers that this wasn't just a dare. She felt her strength slipping, but then she pressed her palm flat against the notebook. No. I'm not walking away. I need to know why. The man's face hardened. Then you've just made yourself a target. When they released her, the city lights felt sharper, the noise heavier. She walked fast, determination rising through the fear. Back home, she tore open the notebook to page 47. Her eyes scanned the lines, breath quickening. It wasn't a name this time, it was an address. Scribbled beneath it, the beginning. Don't tell her yet. Her heart stopped. Don't tell her yet. Who was the note for? And what beginning? The door creaked open behind her. She turned, and saw her husband standing there, eyes locked on the notebook in her hands. Now you've gone too far, he said. He stepped closer, voice sharp. You weren't supposed to see that page. Her grip tightened on the notebook. You've been lying since the beginning. This wasn't a dare, it was planned. Every step. For the first time, his mask cracked. His jaw clenched, and he slammed his hand on the table. You think you were the only one trapped? Look closer. Page 47 isn't just about you. She flipped the notebook open again, heart hammering. Beneath the address, in rushed handwriting, was a second line she hadn't noticed before: protect her until it's time. Her eyes darted up. Protect me? From what? He didn't answer, only grabbed his coat. You'll know soon enough. But not if you keep chasing ghosts. Fury surged through her exhaustion. Stop speaking in riddles. I've lost my career, my name, everything because of you. If I'm on that list, I deserve to know why. His silence cut deeper than shouting. Finally, he said, almost to himself, they already erased me once. They'll do the same to you if you don't stop. Before she could press him further, the door rattled, someone trying to force it open. She froze. He motioned for her to stay silent, but the lock snapped, and two figures stormed in. One was the suited man from before. The other, her former mentor. Her blood ran cold. You? The mentor's eyes, once warm, were cold steel now. You were never supposed to see that notebook. He was meant to shield you, not drag you deeper. She staggered back, betrayal slicing deeper than any rumor or headline. You knew? All these years, you knew? The mentor's voice lowered, almost pitying. You were always just a piece on the board. Her husband stepped between them. No. Not anymore. The room felt like it would ignite. Her mentor's words hung heavy, her husband's defiance unsteady, and she, caught between them, clutching the notebook like her last lifeline, knew the explosion was seconds away. The courtroom was silent. All the whispers, all the doubts, all the lies had finally reached this moment. He stood there, tall but weary, carrying every scar of betrayal on his shoulders. For months, he had been humiliated, stripped of dignity, left with nothing but his will to fight back. Now, with everyone watching, it was time for the truth. The documents lay on the table, the same papers they had tried to force him to sign on his wedding night. He picked them up, his hand steady now, and raised his voice. Everything you hid, every scheme, every false promise, it's all here. Gasps filled the room. The woman who once called herself his wife shrank in her chair, unable to meet his gaze. She had underestimated him. She thought his kindness was weakness, his love a blindfold. But she never understood, betrayal doesn't break strong people, it forges them. One by one, witnesses stepped forward. Friends who had doubted him, employees who had been silenced, even a stranger who owed him nothing, all told their piece of the truth. The puzzle came together, each voice another strike against the lies. He had once been alone, but now the room echoed with support. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. Freedom. Vindication. The empire she tried to steal was his again. And in that instant, all the shame turned to triumph. He turned to the crowd. Some cheered, some cried, but he simply smiled. "I lost everything once," he said softly, "and that was the best gift life ever gave me. Because now, I know who I am. And no one can take that away again." He walked out into the sunlight, breathing deeper than he had in years. The weight was gone. Ahead of him wasn't revenge, but renewal. He had built himself once, and he would build again, stronger, freer, untouchable. And as the doors closed behind him, people whispered not about his fall, but about his rise. The man who had been betrayed, had turned it into victory.